Everyone says buying a house within about 10 kilometers of Melbourne CBD for under 1 million is impossible in 2026. They are wrong. Today I'm showing you the last 5 pockets where that dream is still alive, what your budget can actually buy, what it's like to live there, and which one I'd choose myself. If your budget is around 1 million and you want to stay close to the CBD, Footscray is likely the first place you'll look. For houses, this budget restricts you to a smaller block, roughly 180 to 200 square meters, with prices sitting between 750 grand and 900 grand. If you want a larger block of 300 to 400 square meters, you are looking at 1.2 million plus. No matter the block size, most houses in this price range are quite run down and will need some level of renovation or updating before they feel comfortable to live in. And honestly, townhouses aren't always the bargain people think they are. For 700k to 800k, you're usually getting an older style with a narrow layout, poor natural light, and a zero backyard. Once you look at brand new builds, the price climbs surprisingly close to 1 million. And at that point, there are better options elsewhere. What I like most about here is the convenience. You're only a few kilometers from the CBD, public transport is excellent, and you've got plenty of supermarkets and food options within walking distance. When I talk about Footscray, many buyers immediately say no, mainly because of its reputation. They still associate Footscray with crime, public housing, and a rougher environment. The suburb has improved a lot over the last decade, but not every part of Footscray has changed at the same pace. Some streets feel completely different today, while others are still a bit dodgy. That's what I call a reputation discount. It's why prices are still lower than many suburbs this close to the CBD. Footscray is a strong match for first home buyers and young professionals chasing an urban lifestyle on a budget. But if your dream home is on a quiet, leafy street near a top-tier school, look elsewhere. If I were buying here today, I would focus entirely on land share. I'd stretch my budget for a larger block with long-term potential rather than chasing the cheapest entry price. I would be highly selective with townhouses, and I'd be incredibly cautious with apartments. Footscray has a huge supply of apartments, and many are still selling for less than they did several years ago. If Footscray is all about convenience and city living, South Kingsville is almost the opposite. It's quieter and feels much more residential. The catch is that houses on their own land are becoming harder to buy for under 1 million. While the median house price is around the 1 million mark, the reality is that if you are looking for a decent house on its own block, you usually need to budget about 1 million. Occasionally, you'll see larger blocks of 500 square meters or more advertised in the high 800 grands or 900 grands, but I wouldn't be surprised if many of them eventually sell for over 1 million. For around 1 million, buyers can often choose between a brand new 3 or 4 bedroom townhouse or a well-maintained 3-bedroom single-level unit. One thing I like about this suburb is that most properties are already in good condition, so major renovations are usually not necessary. What's really interesting here is that South Kingsville is right in the middle of a massive residential transformation. Just to the west, Altona North is putting in over 3,000 new homes. Then, right in the center of South Kingsville itself, the old industrial pocket is being totally made over into more than 1,100 new apartments and townhouses, plus a brand new shopping hub. And if you look to the east, Suburbs is changing fast too, with tons of new townhouse and apartment projects popping up right along the train line. While that creates a lot of new housing supply, I think it makes existing houses or larger blocks even more valuable. As more medium and high-density housing gets built, standalone homes become harder to find. Lifestyle is another reason people like this suburb. It's quiet, community-focused, and have a vibrant cafe culture. There's no train or tram, but buses are available, and access to the Westgate Freeway makes it easy to get into the city. Schools aren't really the main draw card here. If getting into a top public school zone is high on your list, there are stronger options in the West. If I were buying in South Kingsville, I'd strictly stick to houses with their own land. Personally, I'm staying away from townhouses and apartments there because the future supply pipeline is just too massive. If Footscray is too expensive and South Kingsville doesn't offer enough value, most buyers eventually end up looking at three neighboring western suburbs, Sunshine, Braybrook, and Maidstone. They are close to each other on the map, but they're actually three very different property plays. If your budget is around 1 million, Sunshine is one of the few places this close to the CBD where you can still get a decent sized block for your money. For houses around 900 grand to 1 million can still buy you a 400 to 500 square meter block, often in a nicer street and closer to the train station. If you are lucky, you might even find something on 600 square meters for under 900 grand. Usually there's a reason it's cheaper. It could be on a flat overlay, have an awkward layout, be on a rougher street, or be further from transport. For townhouse buyers, 750k to 900k can get you a modern 3 or 4 bedroom townhouse, while brand new premium townhouses are often over 1 million. If you are looking for something more affordable, single level units are worth considering. A 3 or 4 bedroom unit can often be found between 650k and 800k. One thing many buyers overlook is the school zone. Certain parts of Sunshine fall into the Braybrook College zone. The reason so many investors are looking at Sunshine is pretty straightforward: infrastructure. For years, many buyers avoided it because of its industrial image and safety concerns. But that's changing quickly. Billions of dollars are being invested into the Sunshine Super Hub, which will connect the airport rail and the suburban rail loop. The government has clearly earmarked Sunshine as a major hub for Melbourne's West and the future CBD. If I were buying in Sunshine today, I want more than 550 square meter, easily access to transport and shopping, and a good school zone. If the budget is tighter, a well-located single-level unit is also a solid option. If Sunshine's growth story doesn't convince you, the suburb many family buyers look at next is Braybrook. Around 700k to 750k will get you a 3 to 4 bedroom townhouse. For houses, 800k to 900k can still buy a block close to 600 square meters. But a common pattern in Braybrook is big land, rough house. A lot of value sits in the land, and many of the houses themselves are quite dated and may need significant renovation. At the same time, many of these sites are gradually being redeveloped into modern townhouses. In fact, some larger 4-bedroom townhouses are usually selling for around 900 grand. One of Braybrook's biggest advantage is the school zone. Braybrook College has built a strong reputation over the years, and it's now considered one of the better performing non-selective public schools in Melbourne's West. The downside is the transport. Unlike Sunshine or Footscray, Braybrook doesn't have its own train station, so many locals either catch a bus or drive to the nearby station. Compared with Sunshine, Braybrook feels a bit quieter and more residential. It's not really a suburb with lots going on, but it has become increasingly popular with young families. A lot of buyers end up looking at Maidstone after they've been priced out of Footscray. Maidstone sits somewhere between Braybrook and Footscray. You are paying a little more for location, but getting closer to the city. Around 750k to 950k can still buy a house on 400 to 600 square meters, although the price often reflects the condition of the home. Many properties in this range need renovation or updating. If you come across a modern 4-bedroom property under 900k, there's a good chance it's actually a unit or townhouse rather than a standalone house. If you are looking for a larger block, a better conditioned house, or more internal living space, you generally need a budget about 1 million. You occasionally find properties on 800 square meters or more advertised under 1 million, but they're usually located along Ballarat Road, which is a very busy main road in Melbourne's West. For townhouse buyers, more than 2 or 3-story townhouses are normally available between $700K and $800K. The main attraction is the location. You are close to High Point, Footscray, Melbourne, and the CBD. While still paying less than many nearby suburbs, Maidstone itself is quiet, and people usually go to nearby areas for cafe and things to do. You often find first home buyers and young professionals here, many of them priced out of Footscray, Seddon, and Yarraville. For local buyers, being closer to the city matters more than having 20 cafe strips nearby. If I were buying in Maidstone, I wouldn't expect huge growth. It's more about getting into a well-located suburb at a relatively low price point. From this video, we could see how different these suburbs are, even though they are all within the same $1 million range and relatively close to the CBD. Some are about convenience and city access, some are about space and land, and others are more about future growth. And the interesting thing is, none of them are perfect, but each one is starting to appeal to a very different type of buyer. So the real question is, what matters most to you? I'm April. If you've got a suburb in mind but you're not sure if it's a trap or gold mine, drop it below and we'll break down the data together. Follow April Talks Aussie for more real talk on the Australian property market. See you in the next one.